Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Amy Johnson from the AMFA office, and I'll be your moderator during today's presentations. We ask you to please place your virtual name tag on by scrolling over your profile video and selecting the three dots in the upper right corner. Click rename and enter your name and your company name. This webinar is scheduled to last 1 hour and will be recorded and available on the AMFA website and under the events tab. I would now like to turn the mic over to the AMFA board president, Wade Carnes.
All right, thank you, Amy. Welcome everybody to today's meeting. We got some announcements to go through here first, and then we'll get to the actual presentations. I'd like to say we've all adapted this year to deliver and receive information responsibly and to cultivate professional relationships, and the Zoom is actually kind of turning into a good thing, I think. Although our interaction have evolved, AMFA is still going to continue to not only exist, but to accomplish significant things for the future. And we thank you for sticking with us through it all here. Every January, AMFA shares an annual report on the financials and some other stuff that's happening. And Amy will be placing these up on the screen and into the chat if you're interested, and you can review them during the meeting or anytime after, because we're recording everything. So you'll now see on the screen a snapshot of the 2020 activity. This includes all of the stuff that AMFA accomplished or was a participant in the year of 2020. And we'd like to, we've done special events, member communication, promotions and education, legislative activity, strategic partnerships, workforce development, MBiz solutions, programs, and AMFA Educational Trust. So there's a lot of information on that sheet, and I recommend that you all take a look at it when you get a chance. AMFA has 2 new board members this year, so we'd like to welcome them on board here. We have Donald Simmons, who's Duluth Public Schools engineer, industrial arts instructor, and vocational coordinator for the curriculum specialist. And then we have Dustin Thibodeau from Northland Machine. He's the estimator and shift supervisor. And then a special thank you to our outgoing board member, Bill Gunderson, owner of WC Gunderson and Associates. Next, we'll be going to a slide of the anniversaries of members for years in membership of AMFA. And we'd like to say a thank you for the 5-year step for Enbridge Power Step Incorporated. And then at 10 years, we got Exodus Machine, Northern Engineering. And at 15 years, we have Duluth Denfield High School. And at 20 years, we have Mackinac Administrators. So thank you guys for your continued support. The next slide, we will be welcoming new members with. We have Bront Gardner of Northwestern Mutual. And then we have the Headwaters Strategic Succession Consulting, which is a mouthful to say all at once here, but I think I made it through. Some updates regarding AMFA moving forward here. AMFA's website has a new look, so we'd recommend that you all take a look at it. And it's kind of combining the 3 associations all into one site, making it easier for us to all talk to each other and communicate better. We're doing a Marketing for Manufacturers series, and that continues on January 20th with a presentation on marketing strategy, planning, and execution. And you can register for that on the AMFA website as well. It's under the events tab. AMFA is in the process of launching a new human resources series alongside CMMA and TSMA. If you wear the human resources hat at your company and would like to help with content development and format, please contact Amy at AMFA, and we'd love to hear your input from manufacturers. So, also, AMFA board is planning a beverage tasting event in June, which is always a good event. There's some usually pretty tasty beers and a good time to rub elbows with each other and get to know each other a little better. We also have a golf social in August. And that usually takes place at a different country club every year. We'd love your support. These fundraisers, the money from them go towards scholarships for K through 12 high schools and students. And you can buy equipment with it and use it for transportation and all that kind of stuff. So an extra note that we have is AMFA will be co-hosting quarterly gatherings for emerging leaders in 2020 or 2021. And if you'd give it some thought, who are the up and coming leaders at your company? You can contact the AMFA office or the PSMA office and get your employees added to the AMFA database and encourage their attendance at the next emerging leaders discussion. It'll be happening via Zoom on February 10th. So sounds like a pretty cool thing coming up for the young and up and comers here. At this time, I'd like to do our keynote introduction. I'd like to introduce cybersecurity is a many-faceted topic. In this presentation, you will learn about phishing, making your passwords nearly hacker-proof, and safe browsing tips for work and home. Our presenter today is Matthew McCullough. Matthew teaches cybersecurity courses at Lake Superior College, including the Intrusion, Detection, and Network Security Fundamental courses. Matthew helps students research industry topics, such as malware command and control tactics, Internet of Things, and open source defense tools. He also coaches the LSC Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition and the National Cyber League. And before Matthew's time teaching, he spent nearly a decade in IT and cybersecurity at regional banks in the state of Minnesota. And he was the recipient of Cybercorps Scholarships for Service Award and has presented at 9 different cybersecurity conferences on topics ranging from network monitoring, starting a cybersecurity career, and basic security tips. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Matthew.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Wade. Thank you, everybody, for inviting me to talk here. Get this going here. Hopefully, I didn't just go mute. All right. So, like Wade was talking about, going to give you just some basics of password security, phishing information, and some basics on browsing. Let me get that going so I keep on track. If I go along, somebody yell at me. I like to talk for those that have met me in previous lives or previous roles. So the plan for the talk, we're going to talk a little bit about why we hate passwords and how hackers use them and why they're so valuable to hackers. A little bit about what we can do to make it better and potentially even make it so that you don't get hacked in a sense. When will I stop getting these phishing emails? So we're going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about the kind of a 2-question phishing test that you can ask yourself on every single email. And then some basics on just safe browsing habits, I guess would be a way to put it. So let me get this out of the way so I can see my whole screen there. All right, so the necessary evil just means that, you know, passwords are something that we have and are going to be around for a while. You're always logging in with a username and a password combination. A username and password combination, whether that's for your bank, for school, for work. There's, you know, you've got probably anywhere between 50 and 100, I would guess, if you sit down and really start listing them out. And they're really the gatekeeper to your digital life and your digital information. So that's why they are a top target for hackers. And one thing that I like to point out here is, let's flip over to this, is, come back. Come on, screen. So here's a diagram of kind of how the attacks have kind of unfolded and how they've grown in size. So this is back in 2004. AOL had a data breach that leaked 92 million passwords. And as we scroll up here, you see the circle's kind of getting bigger. That means there's more and more passwords being leaked and more incidents, you know, bigger incidents at higher frequency. And as we get closer to, you know, 2020 here, which everybody just wants to forget that year. But you can see it was quite a active year in data breaches. I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.1 billion passwords and usernames were leaked to the public internet. So these are passwords that you could go, if you know where to look on the public internet, you would find passwords in plain text. So it would be, hey, here's Joe at hotmail.com and here's their password. And you could go to hotmail.com and attempt to log in with that. So that's what hackers do when they get these passwords, and they leak them out to the public internet. And that's where you kind of get that lost my train of thought. That's where you get the urgency to kind of change your passwords, and you need to start monitoring your accounts because, as you know, if you look at Facebook here, 420 million people had their password leaked to the public internet, and that was just last year. And I think there's a couple other incidents if you go back a little ways too. So I top in here. So that's kind of a little bit why passwords and making sure that let's get back to making sure that you're securing these. And it's also, you know, IT's favorite torture tool. So every 60, 30, 90 days, we're forcing you to change that password. And that's, you know, for good reason, but everybody kind of groans, oh, I got to change it again. And then, you know, well, I used this one 4 times ago. Can I use it again? And, you know, it's just a torture tool that IT uses often. So, all right. So I kind of hit on it a little bit. The hacker's playbook, it just means, you know, the hackers are looking for something easy. And people are lazy, myself included. You know, I used to, before we got into the password or manager days, I used to use, you know, some combination of, you know, what I'm logging into and a word, and I would just smash those together and it would work. And then that was until I noticed a couple of them out on the public internet. So it's just, you know, human nature to, you know, try to make this easy because you're logging in multiple times a day. You've got all these different accounts, and it's a lot easier to remember something simple than it is to remember something complex. So some of the most common passwords, you can see them on the screen. I think those are 2019's most common passwords, or 2020's most common passwords are still being tabulated here. So that's your top 20. Sorry, all you Star Trek fans, Star Wars won out in this case. And hackers like to use social media, and this is kind of hit on why we need to make your passwords a little bit more complex and a little bit less obvious. So if you are a target of a hacker, they're going to go comb all of your social media accounts, all of the public internet, and try to find things like, who are you married to? What are your important dates? Maybe, you know, your birth date, your marriage day, your kids' birthdays, something important in your timeline that you posted to the public internet. Kids' names, pets' names, all common things that they're looking for, and they're going to switch around and programmatically say, hey, here's all of their inputs. Now generate as many passwords as you can in these with, you know, a spouse and a date and a kid's name, and they're going to have that list created, and they're just going to guess until they find your password if you're using one of these kind of categories. So what I like to do is really preach long passwords, and it's passphrase versus password. So a lot of people, you know, use a single word, maybe 2 words. Try to come up with a passphrase. Maybe it's your favorite dessert, your favorite restaurant, and the sky is blue, or something kind of random that isn't in that same theme. But you want to make it as long as is allowed by whatever you're logging into. So some places you can have a password up to 15 characters. Some places you can have a password up to 60 characters. Try to fill up that whole space with a password. Most places is going to be between 15 and 20 characters. If you can come up with something in that range, as you can kind of see here, get that on here, the longer the password, the longer it takes for a hacker to crack it. So this, oops, mouse is going nuts here. Sorry about that. Why are you going? I'm probably getting hacked right now. No. So the longer the character length, so this is just adding numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and all the way up. And then you get down to here, it's 1 through 0 twice. It's going to take the average hacker computer 11,000 or 11 hours. Whereas if you're using something short, like 10 characters, I've got a computer sitting under my desk right now that could crack all of the entire character space in 3 seconds. So these cracking machines are essentially guessing passwords at a rate of about 80 to 90 billion a second. So that's a lot of guesses in 1 second. And if you keep adding length, you're kind of increasing that complexity on an exponential scale. So that's why a longer string of random characters, and we'll see this here as you get increasing complexity in your password, and that's that random character kind of part, is an ideal password. So if you look at this now, instead of just numbers, we've kind of introduced the uppercase letter, the lowercase letter, a number, and a special symbol. And all we're doing is just adding the number of sets, or adding to the number of exclamation points or special symbols. And you can see just by going and adding 2, we've gone from minutes to cracking to almost a month. And adding 4 of them, you're now at 600 years. And we're only at 10 characters. So if you want to kind of make your passwords hacker proof, you want to get to that 15 character level and include all 4, uppercase, a lowercase, a number, and a special character. And if you can make it random, you're going to see those numbers go up even higher in terms of time to crack. So what can you do to make this a little bit easier? Because you've kind of got to play that balance of, all right, I have a 15 character random string that's capital X, lowercase z, 3, 6, 5, colon, curly bracket. You're never going to remember that unless you have a really, really good memory, and I have a terrible memory. Or the other end of that is you've got a really long password, but you're using it on every single account. So what we try to do and preach in cybersecurity is use long passwords and also use different passwords for every single account. The reason being, if you go back to the bubbles that I showed you, there are so many passwords out there on the public internet that if you are using a long password, say a 15 character password, but that whatever you are using it on gets breached and that gets leaked out to the public, that 15 character password, well, it's a great password. You will need to, watch out, because they like to take those and then take your username and pivot and say, hey, we've got, Joe at hotmail.com's 15 character password. Let's go try, instead of Hotmail, let's go try US Bank or Wells Fargo and that same password. And now they have access to your bank information because you use that same password. So an easy-ish way to do this is to get a password vault or password manager. Now, there is one issue with this, in that let's back up a step here. A password vault or a password manager, it's kind of putting all of your passwords and usernames into one kind of management suite, and you just remember one really, 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 really good password to unlock all of your passwords. And I'll show you that here in a second. And then that's the kind of Achilles heel of these solutions, is that if you forget or if you don't use a strong enough password to access your password vault, then you're gonna, if they guess that, they've got the keys to your kingdom in every single password. So some of these options are LastPass, 1Password, Dashlane, KeyPass. These are all free options, free password manager out there. I'll show you mine here in a second. It's a LastPass solution. I like it because it goes between my phone and all my computers. There's online, offline, form filling, family sharing, password creation. And the big thing here is at the bottom, that 2-factor authentication capability. So what do I mean by 2-factor authentication? This is kind of how you really hacker-proof your password. So if you've got a 15 character password and you add 2-factor authentication, it's going to be nearly impossible for a hacker to get into your account by cracking your password, and they're going to have to figure out a different way. 2-factor authentication is just that, the little token down here, or maybe it's a code to your cell phone, or maybe it's you need a thumbprint or your Face ID on Apple iPhones. So it's some kind of additional input that's needed. Now, it's not security questions, and I want to make that clear, is that security questions are the same thing as a password, and there's something and there's something that hackers can guess. You want something that gets sent to your phone or sent to a token or sent, the biometrics. You want that in addition to your password. So it's just an extra step to log in. So it's a little bit extra on your end, but it just increases that security factor. Just want to check the chat here quick. Okay. And it's included in many free password vaults. So let's get out of this here for a second. I'll show you LastPass here. So this is my LastPass vault. You'll notice there's no password showing. It's just my emails. If you want to email me, feel free. But each one of these little squares is one of my emails or one of my accounts. Let's see if I can move this out of the way. And it's nice because there's little browser extensions that you can add. So if you use Chrome or Firefox or Edge, you can add an extension so it'll automatically enter your username and password wherever you're going to log in. And you can also enable two-factor, which I won't show you because that will show something else here. But this is just a easy solution. So what I would suggest if you aren't using Password Manager yet is to go find one, whether it's LastPass or something else, download it, and start setting it up. And don't try to get all of your accounts in one night. As it's much easier to go, as you get prompts or emails saying, hey, reset your password, or as you create new accounts, you can build up your password manager or password vault over time. So I'll show you one here quick. I don't have a members credit union username and password, so I'm just going to show you how easy it is to create one of those, or to create a password and store that in your password vault. So I'll just do test here, and then here's my little browser icon, and I can come in, move this out of the way, and I can say, hey, I need to generate a secure password, and I want 50 characters. So we'll just go 50 characters, and I want uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols. Oops, scroll down there. So we'll say 38 characters. And now I can just copy this, put that in, and now I have a 38 character random password. I have no idea what it is, but my password manager is going to say, hey, I'm going to store that password manager or that password for you. And next time that I log into Members Co-op, I open up my password manager and it says, here's the password. And now, no hacker is going to be able to guess that password. All right, so let's get through this here. All right, so that's a little bit about passwords and how you can secure your passwords. So I want to talk a little bit about phishing emails, then we'll wrap it up with the browsing here in a second and save some time for questions. The reason why I want to hit on phishing emails is that this is 33% of all confirmed data breaches in 2019 were originated by a phishing email. Somebody clicked on a link, or somebody clicked on a phishing email or interacted with a phishing email, and that caused 33% of those bubbles that we just showed. Equated to about $1.8 billion in losses in 2019. Apple's iCloud website is the #1 spoofed phishing email. So that just means the phishing emails that you get, Apple, they mimic Apple's iCloud website the most. And the reason why phishing training is so important is that 38% of untrained users fall for phishing emails, and they, that's a pretty big win for hackers. And they send 10 phishing emails, and almost 4 people are going to click on it. Now they have 4 people's accounts or 4 computers that they can pivot on. Just doing one set of phishing training drops that number down to 14%. Doing continuous training drops that even further down to 2%. So as dry as some of the phishing training could be, it does, lay out in numbers that, hey, if you are learning about this, the numbers go down and your businesses are going to be more resilient to this type of attack. Excuse me. So protect yourself. And this is that phish test. So there's 2 really basic questions that you can ask on every single email that'll rule out about 99% of all phishing emails. The first thing is, do you trust the sender? So when you're looking at that email and you're looking at who it's from, is that somebody that you know? And is it somebody that you trust? If you say yes, then ask the second question. Hey, were you expecting this email? If you're expecting the email, then yeah, it's most likely a valid email and not a phishing email. Now, if you answer no to either one of those, and if you answer no to either one of those, it's likely a phishing email. If you're not sure, give that person a call. Say, hey, John, did you mean to send me an email invoicing me for $1.2 million of product? And if they say no, well, then you've got a phishing email. And if they say, yeah, I sent it from my personal email address, sorry about that, we're in a rush, you verified that it's John actually sending the email, so you can say, hey, this is a valid email, go through your process. Now, the other thing that you can do, if you are, if you answer yes to both of those questions and you're still, hey, there's a couple of links in this email, do I really want to click on it? What I would suggest is going out and Googling, if it's saying, hey, your PayPal account, there was suspicious activity, please log in to, clear yourself, go to paypal.com or Google paypal.com. Don't click the links in there because sometimes you're going to see things like this where it's Microsoft.com or is it Microsoft.com? And if you at a glance look at this or this, you're not likely going to catch that, hey, that's a 0 in Microsoft or that's 2 I's in Microsoft. And you're likely going to click on it. And then the hackers, they've accomplished their mission and they got you to do what they intended you to do. The same goes for attachments. If it is an attachment that ever says, or that's titled like invoice or a purchase order, be very hesitant. Or tracking is another common one. Just be very hesitant and make sure that you can answer, yes, it's a trusted sender, and yes, you were expecting that email. And any emails that are trying to, I like fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or urgency. So they're trying to play on your emotions. If you get an email that says, hey, we have to get this done right now. I already talked to the CEO, I already talked to CIO, or I already talked to the CFO, we got to get this done right away, get it through. Step back for a second, just hit pause and say, all right, is this normally how that person acts? Is this something that, kind of raising some red flags inside? Because it's, urgency, it's trying to create some doubt in that, hey, I already went through the process. Well, did you really? Because I'm part of that process. Or if the fear factor, and this was common back at the beginning of like the pandemic. In years past, there's been some other phishing campaigns that have kind of played on this fear where they're going to release some kind of video or a salacious video of you that they recorded from your webcam unless you send them a bunch of money. So if it's playing on a fear, again, it's likely a phishing email. All right, so last thing I wanted to talk about is some browsing basics. And the biggest thing for safe web browsing now is just making sure that your browser and your operating system are up to date. So that means if you're using Windows, make sure you're running those Windows updates every month, or go in and enable automatic Windows updating and just let it do its thing. When it says, hey, you need to update or reboot for updates, let it reboot for updates. And hopefully in the business setting, the IT team will be taking care of that for you. So if they are pushing out updates, they're going to force you to reboot, or they're going to say, hey, we're going to reboot your computers tonight to apply Windows updates. And usually that'll include your browser updates. Now, if you're using something third party like Google Chrome or Firefox, you might notice, let me get out here. Up in the corner here, you might notice a little thing that says, hey, update. And that's just trying to make you aware that, hey, Google Chrome needs to shut down so it can apply updates. Same thing with Firefox, and they're doing a good job about trying to make you aware that if you leave your computer on for a long period of time, like myself, hey, we need to shut down Chrome so we can update it and apply the latest security patches. Jump back in here. All right, so once you have an updated browser, and there's a lot of, it's kind of an ongoing theme of, all right, is Chrome more secure than Firefox, or is Edge more secure than any of them? Well, I like to just plug all three of them are more secure than Internet Explorer. So if you're using Internet Explorer, go to any one of the other ones. But it's really, all three of them are great in terms of security-wise, and they're pretty neck and neck in that case. So what about that green lock? So if you remember, there was a lot of push maybe a couple of years ago that, hey, look for the green lock, look for that green indicator that says, hey, this is a secure website. That's slowly being phased out by a lot of the modern browsers, and instead they are kind of they're doing with this non-secure. Oh, why is my mouse going nuts here? There we go. All right, so they're doing this not secure. I'm just going to shut that off. All right, so they're doing this not secure instead, and then the reason for that is that most websites now are using the protocol that enabled that green lock. So they're switching from, hey, this website is using correct security precautions, to, hey, this website isn't using correct security precautions, because there's more websites that are doing it correct now than not correct. So that's kind of where that went. So look for this not secure. If you see not secure, that means there's something wrong. You might also see something like this when danger malware ahead in Chrome. Or you might see something like, hey, this website isn't secure, where you need to click either go back, which I would suggest you do, unless you know who owns that website on a like personal level. You can click advanced and go on. But if you see something like this, take a step back, make sure you went and clicked a valid link. And if you didn't, maybe alert your IT teams. And then down here, here's the Firefox version of that same thing. The site ahead contains malware, so if you click on, you're likely to get some kind of malicious software downloaded on your computer. All right, another quick basic is just when you're on public Wi-Fi, so when you're stopping and grabbing that Caribou Coffee, when we're allowed to go to Caribou Coffee and using the Wi-Fi, don't do any kind of baking. Don't do any kind of private web browsing on a public Wi-Fi. And the reason being that anybody in that coffee shop could be potentially sniffing your traffic. What that just means is that they could be watching where you go without you ever knowing. And they can do that really simple or really easily. And it could be anybody in there. It doesn't have to be the guy in the back corner with the black hoodie on and typing away with the hacker thing. It could be anybody. It could be the guy in the suit, the little kid in the corner. It's pretty easy to spoof public Wi-Fi. So if you do need to do something that's private, like banking or business work, use a VPN whenever you're in doubt. And a VPN is just a virtual private network. Most of you might have become familiar with that with the pandemic and working remote. This is just a way to secure your traffic from the public internet to wherever you're going, whether that's your business, your bank, whatever. It makes it so that anybody that's trying to sniff the traffic, all they see is random garbage. They don't see that that information like, hey, here's my US bank password and username. And then finally, the last thing I want to hit on is just a little bit more advanced, in its DNS filtering. And what that means is there's open source products out there, or there are free products out there like Pi-hole that will help you eliminate malicious links from your entire network. So this is something that you can implement at your house, and I won't go too in depth in it in this presentation. If you are interested, let me know, and I'll share my email information. We can get that to you afterwards. But it's just a way to secure kind of your whole home from potentially clicking on something and going to some place that says, hey, this site contains malware. All right, so just a quick review. Passwords, everybody hates them. Hackers love to get them. They're a very, very powerful thing to hackers. Try to make it hard on them. Use a password vault. If you aren't yet, get one, use or start implementing it. Use that 15 plus characters. Enable two-factor authentication wherever you can. For myself, that's just enabling it and sending a text to my phone. It's the easiest way since my phone's usually on me at all times. Avoid the sticky note under the keyboard, the passwords.txt file on your desktop, or spreadsheet in your My Documents folder. And then finally, don't click on links or attachments before you verify them. So ask those two questions. Do you trust the sender? Were you expecting this email? And watch out for any emails that create that fear, uncertainty, urgency, or doubt in their subject. And then finally, just update your browsers. So make sure that your browsers and operating systems are up to date so that you have those latest security patches. And on that note, I'll open it up for any questions. Hopefully I didn't run too long here.
No, you are perfect on time, Matt. Thank you. And we definitely have some questions here in the chat. First one, is there one password vault that's better than others, or are they all the same?
You're going to get different answers depending on who you ask. Like I said, I used LastPass. It's a free solution. And the reason I picked LastPass was that they have been breached a couple of times and they're very open about it. Pretty much every major password manager out there has been breached. And I like that they were open about it and said, hey, here's what happened, here's how we fixed it, and here's how we're going to prevent it moving forward. And I like the features that you get for the free the free level. They have additional features for the paid level, but with LastPass, it includes that two-factor, and I can sync it between my phone and my computers and the cloud. So anywhere I go, I can log into my password vault as long as I have that public internet and get those accounts. Or like on my phone, there's a local database. So when I open up the app on my phone, if I'm, say, in a remote part of the BWCA, I can open that up and get my password for whatever reason why I would need it. I don't know, but it's kind of what features you're looking for is really what it comes down to. So it's personal preference, but yeah, my preference was LastPass. So
That was LastPass?
LastPass, yep.
Okay, great, thank you. So does it make any difference for browsing security to use something like DuckDuckGo versus Google?
It depends on how anonymous you want to get. So you Google, you can Google it, pun intended, but they're very good at collecting information, and it's pretty obvious or pretty well known that they're very good about that. Using something like DuckDuckGo is a different search engine, and what it does is it kind of anonymizes your search, so it's a little bit harder to track what you're searching. So in a sense, yes, it's more secure if you want to be more anonymous, but the search results might not be as powerful as Google, just because Google has that presence and that the underlying algorithm that really does a great job of finding and kind of inferring what you mean. So.
Thank you. Is a VPN automatically on computers or need software?
So it kind of, again, depends. Sorry about the vague answers, but yeah, most modern browsers like Windows will have a VPN client installed, but you'll need to enable it and point it at a VPN server. So I'm not going too technical here. You'll need some kind of either a service, or if you're trying to create a VPN to your house, say, you'll need to create a VPN server at your house and then input the settings onto your computer, your laptop, or your phone, or whatever. Now, if you go a different route and you don't want to set up the VPN server and have to manage that at your house or wherever you're trying to get into, you can buy a subscription-based service, or I think there might be a couple of free ones out there, but they're kind of shady. But like NordVPN, for example, is a paid service where you pay so much a month and you get access to use their VPN servers. And basically you say, hey, I want my traffic, I want to use the VPN server in New York City, or I want to use the VPN server in Toronto. If you want to go to make it look like you're browsing from a different country, you can do that with these VPN services. But again, they're a paid service. But if you go that route, you'll be able to download a client that will give you that VPN ability.
Thank you. Next question. Sometimes I'll come to a site that says the certificate is not current. Are those safe?
That's, yeah, hit and miss. Depends on the site. Sometimes it's whoever's managing the site forgets to update the certificate on that website, and that's where you get something like this down here, this not secure. That's one of the common misconfigurations, is that, hey, I'm the web admin for Members Co-op, and I forgot to update our certificate, because there's a timer on these certificates. Typically, it's anywhere from 1 year to 10 years. So every year, 10 years, and they have to update this and get a new certificate. So it's one thing to look for, that if you see something like, hey, the certificate's not valid, that's one thing to kind of raise that red flag and say, all right, hold on, before I enter anything personal, let me just make sure this was an IT mistake, or is this did somebody take over this website? So I guess in short, if you see that not valid and it's something like your bank, maybe call the bank's customer service line and say, hey, did you guys know about this? And verify through a different method other than online.
Thank you. Next question. Home security devices are becoming very popular. Any tips on keeping doorbell cameras and those type of devices out of the hands of hackers?
use ones with a good security, or use vendors with a good security history with those IoT devices, the smart fridges, the smart doorbells, the security cameras, all those security camera systems. Try to stick with the big name vendors. They're doing a better job of security. The big thing with these IoT devices has been get them out to market as fast as you can and get them out there as cheap as you can. So what they do is they reuse code. And what happens when they do that is the vulnerabilities are shared across all of these, no name security cameras. They've got the same username and password. And they've got the same vulnerabilities on them. So when you hook them up, you're introducing a huge hole to your home network versus something like, say, Nest or Amazon's products. They're doing a better job of pushing out updates and securing the devices. So that's on the security or the device side. If you buy the more well-known products, you're going to be a little more secure. But also, if you've got the other ones, what you can do is create a second wireless network. And say you've got a wireless network that's home network or whatever. If you go into your router on your house or at your house, you can create a second wireless network that's maybe home IoT and connect all of those devices to that home IoT and try to segment your smart devices from your laptop, your cell phones, your devices that contain a lot of the private data. So if you're interested in that, again, it might be a little bit too much for this, but shoot me an email, or I'll share my email at the end here, and we can get you some information on that too.
Thank you. So what you're saying is you get what you pay for with those things.
In a sense, yeah. I mean, the short way to answer it.
Yeah. Next question here. I have ATT cell service. Is using my hotspot a secure connection?
In most cases, yeah. It's going to be as secure as your ISP or your home service, like your Charter or MediaCom. It's more dependent upon if you're using your hotspot and it's in your control at all times. It's gonna be just like accessing the internet on your home Wi-Fi. Now, if you're using somebody else's hotspot, or somebody else has stood up a cell tower, which is not that common, then yeah, you're gonna introduce that. But in the whole, it's just as secure as using your home Wi-Fi.
Great, thank you. Any final questions for Matt? Right, Matt, thank you very much. A lot of great feedback in the chat. This has been very informational. As Matt said, Matt, if you want to throw your contact information in the chat as well,
yep.
Then if anybody has any additional questions, that can be there to access. So thank you very much. And with that, I will turn the mic over to Wade to introduce our tour.
All right, thank you, Amy. Matt, great information. That was very informative. Really appreciate it. Next, we're going to go to our virtual tour. And this week we have Northland Machine, who provides full manufacturing capabilities for all your prototyping and production needs, with services including design, CNC machining, welding, fabrication, painting, and full assembly. We got Dustin Thibodeau, who started machining in 2004 and has been doing it ever since. As a former business owner in Oregon, he manufactured awards, trophies, and personalized gifts. And he is now an estimator and shift supervisor at Northland Machine, which is located in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. I guess the floor is yours, Dustin.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. Northland Machine was opened up in 1980 by Marv Gustafson, and he is still the owner of the place. We have approximately 30,000 square feet between two different buildings here. We have quite a few CNC machines between us, between the two buildings. And this is one of our CNC lathes. It's a Integrex 300. It's a dual spindle with mill turning. This machine, basically, you put a chunk of steel in there and make an engine block all at once in there. It's a big machine. It's got a lot of capabilities. This is another one of our CNC lathes with mill turning. It's a lot smaller, but is very quick. It makes small parts very quick. It also has mill turn. We do a lot of stainless parts in that machine. This is one of our vertical mills. It's one of the smaller ones that we have. It's got about a 36-inch Y travel in probably about 20 and 36-inch in X and about 20 in Y and about 15 in Z. But again, it's very quick. It does small parts fast. This is one of our big horizontal mills. This is a Nexus 6800. It has a 600 millimeter pallet on it. This will give you an idea of the size of parts that can be done on this machine. I think the travel in it in X and Y is right around 48 inches. So basically, you could do a 48-inch block in there. This is our Fadal. It's a 80-30. It's got 80 inches of travel in X and 30 in Y. We do a lot of mold making, and that is specifically what that machine is for. It does all the mold making. It is the only machine we have in the shop that is not a Mazak. Other than that, we have all Mazaks. This is our pallet tech system. Our pallet tech system is 3 horizontal Mazak mills that are all hooked together and controlled by one of the machines. And there's a robot that grabs pallets and moves it from machine to machine. So you got 2 loading stations. You got 3 machines hooked together. One person can run all 3 machines at the same time without too much hassle. Yeah, you got to work, but it works. It's got 20 different pallets on it, and size-wise in there, it's not as big as the 6800. These are 4800, so it's got a 400 millimeter pallet on it. So you can, about 20 inches square is what you can turn in there. That just gives you an idea of what the robot looks like. It grabs the pallets and moves it from machine to machine. This is a vertical mill. It's capable of doing 200 inches in length. So I think that's one of the only ones in the state that can do that length of stuff. We've actually done parts in there that are 240 inches. If you can kind of squeeze things around and move them around. We have done stuff that's longer. It's not real easy, but it's possible. And this is another SVC vertical mill. It is capable of 120 inches. This one is a VTC-20. It is an older machine, and it's funny because anytime anybody starts here, they look at that machine and they say that's a piece of junk. That's a great machine. It's old, but it's very trustworthy and very accurate. This is our assembly shop. We do a lot of assembly of axles for ASV, among other assembly stuff. You can see there on the racks, there's some of the tubes and stuff for ASVs. This is some of the tubes being assembled. This is stuff being washed before it gets painted. We have a full paint booth up there and everything to get everything painted. This is axles after they've been painted, and you can see the paint booth back there behind. We do also fabrication. This is one of the fabrications that we made a snow bucket for an ASV. So we can pretty much fabricate anything. And then we got our quality department. We have 2 CMMs, which is a computer measuring machine. And what it does, you put a part on there, and of course you have to write the program for it, and it'll measure every part and tell you where every position is on that particular part. This is the machine and working on a part, and that is another part. This is our weld shop. We have a pretty good-sized weld shop. We have several welders. We have lathes, welding lathes. This is one of the welding lathes and being worked on. This is, we do our own design here. We design for customers and stuff like this. This is 3 of us together trying to figure out a design on a particular part. We use SolidWorks here and CamWorks for writing programs. This is some of the parts that we've made. Let me go back one here. This is on that Palatech system. You can see some of the fixtures for holding parts get pretty intricate. You can see there's hydraulics and stuff that clamp the part on there to hold it in place while we're doing the machining on it. These are a bunch of axles that have been made. And here's some other stuff. That nut, to give you an idea, that's an M48 nut. So it's a pretty good sized nut there. These are some axles that are for railroads. These are just some different parts. They're called O-ring bosses. We have to hold the chamfer in there has to be held at a really tight tolerance for an O-ring. These are some other. These are inlets. We do a lot of casting stuff here too. These are some parts that aren't machined. They're just cut and welded together and then painted and sent out to the customers. Oop, went too far there. This is a picture of axles after they've been, you got an axle in a tube, and actually every part that's in that thing, there is an axle that goes in the middle. There's little caps that are on the end we make here. The tube we make here, and then they're assembled up in the assembly shop, and then we wash and paint them here too. This is some of the longer parts that we've done. I'm not sure how long those are. And this is just a close-up picture of an aluminum extrusion that we do. I can see now that I got that picture up there, that one's got a big nick in it. It's probably no good, and that's just a picture of it a little bit farther away. And that is all I got. I hope I didn't go too quick for everybody, and I'll answer any questions you got.
Great, thank you very much, Dustin. So just as we did with Matt, if you have any questions for Dustin, feel free to put them in the chat, and I will relay those. And so I do have one here for you. I know you touched a little bit on robotics. Can you can you talk about how you have or maybe haven't implemented robotics at your facility?
Well, the only thing we have for robotics would be the Palatech system that just uses the robot to grab pallets to move it from machine to machine. That is the only thing for robotics that we've done here. We haven't really even talked about implementing any other kind of robotics. Most of the stuff we don't do really large quantities of stuff. Not that we wouldn't if we had the orders, but most of the stuff we do is only for under 100 pieces. So implementing a robot to do that would not be cost effective.
Okay, and you mentioned you're in Grand Rapids?
Yes, we are in Grand Rapids. We are right off Highway 2, between Grand Rapids and Cohasset.
How many employees are at your shop?
We have 22 employees.
So now, speaking of automation, do you have any automated vision inspection?
We do not.
And what
We
are
use,
oh, go ahead.
We use just the CMMs we do, so everything has to be programmed ahead of time in order to, for each part, everything has to be programmed ahead of time to get the measurements off a specific part.
What are the biggest quality control issues you run into?
Oh, man, biggest quality control. I'm not sure how to answer that question. That's a tough one. There's a lot of them. I suppose it's the biggest thing is stuff being over-engineered. We get stuff in that it's just a bolt hole clearance, but they put a plus or minus 0.5 tolerance on it. Of course, we can hold that, but the price goes way up. But that is the kind of quality. Most of the quality issues that we have is stuff like that.
Fair enough. Do you do work from all over, local or regional?
Most of our work is done right in this area. We do work for L&M Radiator. We do work for ASV, Hibbing Fabricators. I can't think anymore right off the top of my head. There's quite a few more, but for the most part, it's just right here locally. Not locally, within the range area.
Okay. How heavy of a work piece can your large machines handle?
Oh boy, I will have to check into that. I know I have stuck. I've put stuff in there that our forklift can't lift, so over 5,000 pounds.
Wow. So now, speaking of skilled workers in your area, do you have a hard time finding skilled workers?
We do, and what makes it difficult is you get a lot of people that are from the cities, and they want to move up here because they want to be in the nice northern area of the state, but they expect that city wage, and that just doesn't happen up here.
Are you aware of any efforts at your facility to try to work around that? Incumbent training or?
I am not aware of any, no.
It's okay. Any final questions for Dustin from the audience? Great. Well, thank you, Dustin, very much. If you want to also put your information in chat to contact, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you for letting us look inside Northland Machine in Grand Rapids. With that, Wade, I will pass it back over to you.
All right, thank you. I guess at this time, I'd like to thank Matthew again for his sharing his expertise with us today, and Dustin on fascinating tour at Northland Machine there. Appreciate it. I'd like to thank everybody for attending today, and we appreciate your continued support. This is going to end our webinar for the day. The presenters and some of the other people will be staying on. If you have questions, want to talk to them, feel free to stick around. And for those that are logging off, Happy New Year, and we'll see you again next time.